Star Fox is back. And he's ugly now. Star Fox has never been one of Nintendo's most successful franchises. Yes, he's appeared a couple of times in Smash Bros, and of course, as of recent, he has a new game along the way and made a good appearance in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. But beyond that, he's never really been a big franchise. When Star Fox originally came out for the Super Nintendo, it took the world by storm for its incredible graphics and early usage of 3D. Then came Star Fox 64, which was an even bigger deal and became the most successful game in the series. But beyond that, he really never gained that much traction. The GameCube and so long after that wasn't really a great time for the franchise. He kind of seemed stagnant, and it seemed like the creators never really knew what to do with him beyond Star Fox 64. And that's even more evidence based on this new game, which is yet again a remake of Star Fox 64. I do need to preface the fact that I am not a big Star Fox fan. For anyone who doesn't know how the game plays, it's essentially an on-rail shooter, meaning you move in a straight line and you have the ability to shoot around you. Think of something like Gallagher, but in a 3D perspective. That's basically what Star Fox is, and it's by no means a bad form of gameplay. But to me, it's always felt kind of outdated. Like, the reason I felt like Star Fox worked back in the day was because that's kind of the only way you could have really done a space shooter of its kind like that on the Super Nintendo and N64. I felt like its gameplay was more of a way of utilizing the resources it had rather than just being the genre it outright always intended to be. Because to me, Star Fox has always been a space shooter inspired by, the X-Wing scenes in Star Wars. It felt like that's the type of game it was trying to be. And I feel like still being an on-rail shooter, even now, it kind of feels like it's limiting itself. I don't know, man. It just seems like Star Fox hasn't really progressed as a franchise. I mean, you look at other Nintendo franchises like Mario or Zelda or Kirby, all their new entries have changed up the formula of their established IPs and have made games that have either been as good or have surpassed what came before it. But with Star Fox, the new one, we're just doing the same thing we've always been doing since the Super Nintendo. The original Star Fox was a groundbreaking game, but then we move on to the next entry, Star Fox 64, and in my opinion, that game was already just a remake of the original Star Fox, but everything could become refined because the N64 was capable of truly living out what they intended on doing with that Super Nintendo game. To me, Star Fox 64 was the refined and polished version of the original Star Fox. But after that, we saw attempts at changing up the formula. We got games like Star Fox Adventure, which was, for the most part, more of an action-adventure game rather than being an on-rail shooter. Though there were elements of on-rail shooters implemented in the game. And while, yes, to a lot of people, this was maybe a radical change, I do believe it was, at least at some attempts, the right thing to do at that point. And then we get other entries in the franchise like Star Fox Command and Assault, and those games, while bringing back some of the elements from the original Star Fox, also add in new ideas to change up the formula. But it seems like probably because those games didn't do that well, that Nintendo just decided, the old games worked, so let's just do it again. And the thing is, Star Fox hasn't been anything else since those games. Star Fox on the 3DS, just a remake of Star Fox 64. Star Fox Zero was kind of just another retelling of the original Star Fox and Star Fox 64. And now 2026 comes in and we're just doing the same thing we've always been doing, taking what came before it and just making the graphics look better. And how? That's not even what's something you're even enjoying about the new game, because look at these character designs.
Happy Feet, one more combo. That ain't Falco.
So, what do I think of the new character designs? I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate them as much as other people do. Now, again, I'm not a big Star Fox fan, so I could just be straight up honest. I don't care. But I kind of understand what Nintendo's doing. In my opinion, it seems like they're getting their inspiration from the original box art of Star Fox, the one that utilized those puppets. It seems like they're taking in the philosophy of that and how they made the characters look realistic and are now using that approach for the art style of the new game. And I can respect it. I know for a lot of people it's quite a wild change, especially because we got a pretty traditional looking Star Fox in the Mario Galaxy movie. But in my opinion, I think it's a breath of fresh air for Nintendo. I can really appreciate the fact that they decided to make one of their IPs look a lot different from how the other entries in their game series look like. I appreciate the fact that they want to make Star Fox as a franchise stand out from the cartoony style they always seem to implement in all their other games. I think it's refreshing, especially because Star Fox seemingly is trying to target a more teenage rating, so I can understand making the game look more serious. Now, to some people, it just makes it look like a Halo parody, but in my eyes, it's alright. It's nothing egregious or anything. I do think the characters still look like the characters, even if they have a new art style. My personal gripe with the game is its gameplay, because it's just more of the same. And again, I'm aware it is a remake of Star Fox 64, but even being a remake, you could have added a lot more new additions to the game. And yes, I am aware there are new additions to how the game controls and the combat, but by and large, it's the same type of game we've always had since the Super Nintendo title. And I'm kind of upset about that. I was kind of hoping for Star Fox comeback to take more risks in how the game plays. I felt like this would have been the perfect opportunity to truly reboot Star Fox and reevaluate what it is to be a Star Fox game. And instead, Nintendo kind of does the half step. Yes, it's trying to relaunch the franchise to new people, but it's still unwilling to change itself to please its old fans. I mean, look at the last Star Fox game that came out. One of the criticisms of that game was that it was so similar to the other games with barely any new additions. This seems like more of the same thing, but because I guess it's a remake of a game that's already loved, people are more willing to accept it. But what does that mean for the future of the franchise? Are we just going to get more games inspired by Star Fox 64? And I'm not saying that it's because it's an on-rail shooter that's the reason why the franchise sucks. I feel like even within that genre, you could do so many more cool things with that now that we're on the Nintendo Switch 2. But instead, everything kind of just seems the same. Like, beyond the graphics, there's nothing about this game that screams like it couldn't have just been made so long ago. And again, it is a remake, I'm aware of that. But as a remake, you could have done so much more. You could have really shown why this is the next generation of Star Fox. And instead, it's just Star Fox 64 with a nice coat of paint. And nice coat of paint is generous because, again, the design. I really don't know how to feel about this game. On the one hand, I want to reserve judgment until the game comes out so I can fairly critique it. But on the other hand, I'm just kind of upset that Star Fox isn't willing to change up its formula and truly bring the franchise into a new generation. It seems like we're so dedicated to just following up Star Fox 64 that it's so scared to do anything that diverts from how that game played. And yes, I'm aware Star Fox 64 is a fun game, but there's so much more we could do with the franchise. Imagine if other Nintendo franchises were unwilling to change because their old games are so popular that they now couldn't do something new. That's not how Nintendo usually operates. Nintendo is all about innovation and changing up how games play, creating new experiences. But Star Fox, for whatever reason, seems like one of the few franchises that's unwilling to adopt this type of philosophy. Oh well. It seems like we're just gonna have to see what we get out of this game. Who knows? Maybe Nintendo is saving a lot of surprises and we'll truly be shocked with how the end game performs. But for now, I'm cautiously optimistic about the new Star Fox game.